Part 75. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 741. Lincoln turned around and looked at the strong men who were putting a stone of rice into the granary. He directed everyone to leave, then turned and bowed to Xiejin. "Sir, the rice has been counted and put into the granary. Let's go and rest first, sir, you are busy." Chu Nanyi bowed slightly, turned and left with Lincoln. "Wait a minute," who glanced past Lincoln and Chu Nanyi, then turned to Xiejin. "Mr. Xie, how much rice did they send?" Xiejin said, "Isn't this just waiting for Masters who to see it?" Lincoln turned his head and looked at Xiejin respectfully. "Didn't I just tell you, sir? The rice delivered from this granary is exactly 10,000 shi." The head of the clan frowned slightly and looked at the food in the granary expressionlessly. "It's quite a lot." "It's not too much," Lincoln said. "The granary here in Linwu can hold 10,000 stones, and the two towns next door can each hold 10,000 stones. For the time being, the people's food problem has been solved. Next, we only need to, once the people's residences are settled and money is given to them to buy rice, they can maintain their daily lives in a stable manner for the next quarter." Whose face looked a little unhappy. "Why are there so many? Is it a lot?" Lincoln was surprised. "Your Majesty, you mean that Mianzhou doesn't need so much rice? But there are so many people affected by the disaster." "No, that's not what I meant," who laughed quickly. "What I mean is that your efficiency is very high. It's really hard work to transport so much rice in such a short time." Xiejin said, "It's really hard." Then, who hesitated for a moment and asked tentatively, "Have you seen all the disaster relief funds?" Xiejin nodded. "I have finished counting." "Where is Master Yu's roster? Have you brought it with you?" Bring it here." Who handed him the list. "This is a list of hundreds of people affected by the disaster in several towns in Mianzhou. Please take a look." Xiejin took it, but did not look through it immediately. Instead, he said to Chu Nanyi, "You two will go to Chen's house later. I still have some issues regarding disaster relief funds and subsequent rice transportation that I need to confirm with you." "Yes. Sir." Who heard something bad and pointed at the granary. "Isn't there already so much rice here? It should be enough for the time being. Will we continue to transport it here in the future?" "Is it enough?" Xiejin frowned. "There are so many people affected by the disaster. Almost all the crops in Mianzhou have been flooded, and the autumn harvest has been lost. The rice transported must at least ensure that the livelihood of the people in the entire Mianzhou city is not a problem." But what?" Xiejin was puzzled. "Master Yu is worried that there will be too much rice to sell." Who shook his head subconsciously. "No, it's not." "What does that mean?" "Thank you, sir," the head of the Zone family said with a faint smile. "It's already getting late, let's go back and have dinner first. Yu Shang invited a theater troupe to perform at home today to sing praises to Sir Xie for his concern for the people. I hope he can thank you, sir." As he said that, his eyes fell on Chu Nan's clothes. "These two bosses should go together, it's really hard to transport food all the way here." Hearing this, Xiejin turned to look at Chu Nanyi and Lincoln. "Are you free?" Chu Nanyi was silent for a moment and nodded slowly. "That's fine." "Then please, sir, please call all the officials under you. There will be a lot of fun tonight," Xiejin ordered, seeming to be in a good mood. "The head of the clan will go home and prepare first. I will go back to Chen's house to take a bath and change clothes." The head of the clan nodded. "Then I would like to welcome you and thank you for your honor." Everyone parted ways. The granary was closed, and dozens of people were standing guard outside day and night to prevent anyone from trying to gain access to the granary. The head of the Zone family looked at the backs of Xiejin and Chu Nanyi as they left, and his expression turned deep and cold. "Master Yu, don't you think something is abnormal?" "It is indeed abnormal." Mr. Yu looked gloomy. Siejin's actions are somewhat confusing to me. Food came so easily. 30,000 she of grain was transported here quietly. We didn't even hear the news, the head of the Zone family said in a gloomy tone, obviously suspicious, and this Mr. Xie, when the document came down, he had already arriving in Mianzhou, giving out porridge and steamed buns seemed like a great achievement, but in fact, this was what he came here to do urgently, in order to prevent all the people affected by the disaster from suffering from hunger, and also to prevent the people from becoming extremely hungry. Riots occurred. When Mr. Yu heard this, shock appeared on his face, so it turns out that we made a mistake in judgment. These are not the important points, the head of the Zone family said coldly, the important point is that Siejin came to Mianzhou too early. Do you still remember when your copy was delivered to the imperial city? And when did Siejin arrive? From Mianzhou? The document says it will depart at the end of April, but Jizi has not arrived in the imperial capital at the end of April. What does this mean? Mr. Yu was startled, and other officials behind him also looked surprised and suspicious. This means that Siejin came to provide relief before the memorial was delivered to heaven. Yu's his who looked at the head of the clan in disbelief, but he was horrified in his heart, but how could he know? An official behind Yu's his who said, Her Majesty the Queen has known about the flood in Mianzhou for a long time. Who leaked the secret? It is not yet certain whether Her Majesty the Queen has foresight or the Xie family is too powerful. The head of the clan narrowed his eyes. I am more inclined to believe that the Xie family is too powerful. Don't forget that the current queen and the regent have their roots in the Great Zhou. They have only been brought back to Dongling to succeed the throne for a few years. In just 3 years, their foundation is still shallow. It is hard to say whether they can make the major families willing to obey. If they can predict the flood in Mianzhou, wouldn't they be deified? The officials looked at each other, their expressions were a little solemn. Then what does the clan leader think we should do? Siejin ordered people to transport so much grain here, which is clearly to cut off the livelihood of major merchants. The clan leader said gloomily, if the Chen family sells rice at a low price, the rice stored in our granary will not be sold. Isn't this deliberately trying to kill us? But 30,000 she is not too much. Didn't you hear them say that they will continue to transport it later? The clan leader turned his head and glanced coldly at the person who spoke. 130,000 she is enough to support the livelihood of the people in Mianzhou city for a month. What about 230,000 she? What about 330,000 she? When the newly planted rice in Mianzhou is harvested, will you still be able to sell the rice you have stored? The official who was confronted was speechless. Yu's his whose face was solemn. He didn't expect Siejin to have such a vicious mind. Then what should we do now? The grain stored by major grain merchants was bought with silver. If the rice cannot be sold, the loss is all silver. Is Siejin going to force them to death? The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 742. What is the head of the clan going to do? Grain merchant Yu, who came with the head of the clan, frowned. Just let him suppress us like this. Now that things have developed, if they still believe that Siejin simply wants to provide disaster relief, they are obviously wrong. Siejin is basically teaming up with the Chen family to take the opportunity to monopolize rice and grain, so that the Chen family can dominate. Master Yu, we are all in the same boat. Boss Wang turned to look at Yu's his who, the Zone family, the Yu family, and the Wang family have all strongly supported you, Master Yu, over the years. If we suffer too many losses this time, let the Chen family enjoy all the benefits in one go. I'm afraid that Mr. Yu will not be able to wear his official uniform in the future. When Yu's his who heard his blatant threat, he felt suddenly unhappy. However, he knew that what Boss Wang said was the truth. The Zone family, Yu family, and Wang family had given him too many benefits in recent years. Just a few days ago, major grain companies the merchant also gave him a lot of money and valuable calligraphy and paintings. Without the support of these grain merchants, How could he have made a prefecture so prosperous? However, at the same time, they also have a large amount of evidence of corruption and bribery in his who. If the business of these major grain merchants is not good, he, the magistrate of the state, will probably end up doing it. They are both prospering and losing. If they are going to die together, no one can escape. When his who thought of this, he already had the intention of silencing him, but he still confirmed to the head of the clan, how does the head of the clan think about dealing with Siejin? The head of the clan was silent for a long time and said coldly, I'm going to invite you to the urn tonight. Will you please enter the urn? The head of the clan nodded slowly, let's explore Siejin's intentions first. If it's just for profit, we can negotiate with him. If we have money, we can all make money together. We let him finish the disaster relief in peace and contentment and go back to receive the credit. If he refuses to cooperate, don't blame us for being cruel. Boss Yu was startled, sir, he is the legitimate son of the Xie family. So what? The head of the Zone family said coldly, the sky is high and the emperor is far away. No matter how powerful the Xie family is, I don't believe he can reach out to me and Zhou. As long as we work together, even if Xie Chief Fu comes in person, there will be nothing we can do us. The head of the clan is right. Boss Wang said, everyone values interests. 10 years of hard study is just to gain fame and fame. Siejin is a womanizer and pursues fame and fortune. It can't be for the sake of benefiting the world and becoming a good person. His who remained expressionless for a long time, with a cold glint in his eyes, master of the clan, I think that negotiations are unnecessary, so I will just do nothing tonight. Before he finished speaking, everyone else turned their heads and looked over. Let's talk first. The head of the Zone family turned around and got on the carriage. It's better not to take his life. After all, he is an official of the imperial court. We will not do anything to him unless it is absolutely necessary. Others nodded. If the people do not fight with the officials, especially the high-ranking officials in the imperial city, it will mean endless trouble. Moreover, Xie Chifu is such a precious legitimate son. If anyone dares to touch him, Xie Chifu will never give up. Even if the sky is high and the emperor is far away, sooner or later the power of the Xie family will make them unable to survive. But if Siejin insists on not knowing what is good and what is bad, and insists on affecting their interests, then the worst possible outcome will be death, and it will be a matter of whose life is more valuable. Let all the grain merchants come to the Zone family in the evening. The head of the Zone family warned, there will be a lot of people singing tonight. His who nodded, I will ask all my officials to go as well to build up the momentum. The matter is settled like this, and tonight is destined to be a big drama. Siejin took Chu Nanyi and Mo Lingan back to Chen's house. Xuan Yuankan followed quietly. After taking a short rest, Chen Xing brought wine and food to the four of them and took everyone inside and outside the house to retreat far away. Yes, leave 4 people in a room quiet. The old man named Zong seems to have doubts. Today should be the Hungmen banquet. Mo Lingan took a sip of wine and said, is Master Ju ready for tonight? Siejin said, I just took this opportunity to catch them all. Mo Lingan raised his eyes and looked at him, will he catch us all, or will you catch them all? What do you think? Siejin glanced at him sideways, if he can catch us all, it is destined that you should stay here. This useless guy does not deserve to go back to the imperial capital alive. Mo Lingan's expression paused, it seems that you are the imperial envoy responsible for disaster relief. Siejin was thinking about Yao Yao and was in a good mood. His tone was less sarcastic, it's useless for you to tell me these words. Coming to assist is not a task I assigned you. Even if you fail in your duty, it has nothing to do with me. I'll ask you to accuse me. Xianyu and Chen listened to them quietly and secretly thought that Mo Lingan indeed held an important position, but his responsibilities did not seem to be in the court. When it came to calling for an investigation, Lincoln suddenly thought of something and looked at Xiejin with interest. I heard that you were locked up in the royal study by the master and whipped, and the whipping was quite severe. Xian Yuanchen glanced at Xiejin in surprise. Xiejin's expression softened slightly and he looked at him with an unkind look. No wonder he cared so much about the people. When handling the case later, Lincoln picked up the chopsticks and began to enjoy the delicious dinner. Smoking a meal must be effective. Otherwise, with the unscrupulous temper of the ninth master of the Xie family, I am afraid that in order to ensure the success of the case, it doesn't matter how many people die. Chu Nanyi. Xiejin turned to look at Chu Nanyi. You are a grown man, so you won't be so mouthy. Chu Nanyi smiled gracefully and said, I didn't say this, so don't rely on me. Who said that? Lincoln is in charge of intelligence. Don't use intelligence as an excuse. Xiejin interrupted him coldly. How many people knew what happened in the imperial study? I don't believe he can get it from the master. After a pause, the eunuch surnamed and would definitely not dare to say anything. Chu Nanyi was silent for a moment, and said calmly, then I don't know. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 743. Xiejin sneered, but didn't really pursue the issue. After all, being beaten wasn't a shameful thing. Well, it was indeed quite shameful at the time, but Xiejin was thick-skinned and didn't think it was a stain that couldn't be mentioned. The deeper the love, the more severe the criticism. He comforted himself and said this to the other three people present, I will take this as a guide for life. You can't envy it? Envy? Lincoln looked strange. Envy you being beaten? 9. Master Xian Yuanchen spoke at the right time and changed the subject to business. What preparations should we make to go to the Zone family tonight? Look, our Chen is so sensible. Xiejin stretched out his hand and hooked Xian Yuanchen's neck. You should learn from him, don't be naughty all day long. Lincoln said, I'm just afraid that Master Chen will be led astray by you sooner or later. Chu Nanyi took a sip of tea. It's right for Master Chen to follow Xiejin when he goes out for training. The Lord's arrangement is really wise. But Master Chen must remember that he can learn to adapt to circumstances from Xiejin when doing things, but he must pay attention to his conduct. What's wrong with my conduct? Xiejin glanced at him. Chu Nanyi, do you think you are a big white rabbit? Chu Nanyi said, at least I know how to keep myself clean. Xiejin choked, I am also very clean now, always thinking about keeping my body pure for Yao Yao. Chu Nanyi and Lincoln sneered at the same time. Akin. Xiejin pointed at the two of them, when you have experience and come out to handle cases alone in the future, the two of them may become your helpers. You can use them as much as you can at that time. Don't be polite. Xian Yuanchen was silent for a moment, and whispered, thank you, Master Zhu. Why thank him? Lincoln never forgot to make fun of Xiejin at any time. Nanyi and I don't listen to him. Without the master's order, do you think we can help anyone we want? Whether you can get help from Nanyi and me in the future depends on whether you have the ability to handle tasks alone. Xiejin's words don't count. Xian Yuanchen nodded, I will learn from Master Zhu. After the short discussion, the four of them went to take a bath and change clothes. After a busy day today, they should go to the Hungmen banquet carefully prepared by others in a clean and refreshing manner. When they arrived at the Zone family, several carriages had already stopped outside the gate. The people getting off the carriages were all wealthy businessmen with greasy faces and big bellies, looking like they had been squeezing the people for years. Xiejin was the imperial envoy. When he appeared, all the officials and wealthy businessmen had to come over to greet him and say some flattering words that were already readily available in the officialdom or business world, which only made the young and handsome imperial envoy feel flattered and proud. In addition to flattery, Xiejin and Chu Nanyi's outstanding appearance among the wealthy businessmen with thick waists and big faces was really a beautiful scenery, which made people unable to help but admire them. Even these old foxes who usually only recognized silver and beauties were rarely surprised by the scene of four outstanding young men at the same time. If it was a coincidence, it was too coincidental. When these people appeared together, anyone who saw them would definitely believe that they were noble young men from the imperial capital. Their aura could not deceive people. "Is the imperial envoy here?" The head of the Zone family came out with a smile, followed by Zone Yushang. "The banquet is ready, and the opera troupe is here. Please come in, sirs." Xiejin reached out and put his arm around Zone Yushang's waist. "I missed you so much after not seeing you for a day." Zone Yushang hugged him gently, snuggled up to him, and smiled softly. "Sir, the opera troupe is ready. Grandfather has prepared a grand banquet. Many sirs will come tonight. Officials from various counties and towns will come to support you. It will be lively tonight." Xiejin heard what he meant, smiled deeply, and reached out to scratch his nose. "So good." Chu Nanyi and Mo Ling'an followed behind, staring at the intimate movements of the two people subtly, thinking that Xiejin's death was approaching. They originally planned to leave after the matter was over tonight, but now it seems that they may stay to watch the good show. Xian Yuan Chen was no longer surprised. He followed silently behind him. His expressionless face made it hard to tell whether he was unhappy or unwilling to lose his temper in front of many people. Merchants are different from the rich. No matter how rich the family is, the size and specifications of the house are regulated. In this regard, the Zone family is still more low-key than Shangning Yunchenj. After all, the Shangning Yun family had people in the court at that time, and the two cannot be compared. There were many people tonight, and the Zone family owner set up the banquet in the garden. It was spacious and even had seats on the corridor. The stage was placed in the center of the garden, surrounded by seats. Xiejin's position was naturally in the middle with the best view. However, at the same time, he was surrounded by Zone family members, major grain merchants and officials under the prefect. In other words, he was surrounded by these people with ulterior motives. If something unpleasant happened in the middle, his situation would not be very good. However, Xiejin was very calm about it. Holding Zone Yushang in his arms, he sat down at the main seat. The masters and bosses took their seats according to their status. Chu Nanyi and Mo Ling'an sat on the outer corridor, watching and listening. They could always pay attention to the small movements of the masters when they exchanged glances at the table, and they could also detect some unusual movements in the house in time. The opera troupe soon came on stage, and the servants of the Zone family also brought wine and food one after another. Xiejin, who was used to big scenes, could certainly handle a banquet at a merchant's home with ease. Moreover, those present today seemed to be scheming and had their own little calculations, but in fact they were all on the same boat, so it was not difficult to deal with them. "Yes, sir," the prefect looked up at the water-sleeved beauty on the stage. "This is the most famous opera troupe in Mianzhou, and the one above is the most famous in Mianzhou. I think it's not as good as Yuchang." Xiejin only glanced at the stage and retracted his gaze, turned his head to look at Yuchang, and held the wine cup to Zone Yuchang's mouth. "Come, I will feed you myself, drink some wine." Zone Yuchang took a sip obediently, and said through the cover of the wine glass, "Grandfather is cautious. Last night, all the evidence and lists in the study were put under the bed in his bedroom." Xiejin stared at Zone Yuchang, clicked his tongue twice. "The more I look at you, the more I think you are beautiful. Look at this little face, look at this little mouth, why do I like you so much?" As he said that, he poured another glass of wine from the pot and held up the glass to feed Zone Yuchang. "Come on. There is a mechanism under the bed. As long as you lift the bed, the mechanism of the rain of pear blossom needles will be triggered." Zone Yuchang took a sip of wine, raised his eyes and looked at Xiejin, with affection in his eyes. My lord treats me very well, but what? Zone Yachain lowered her head, looking pitiful. Yachain is worried that you will forget about him after you leave after the disaster relief work is over, the head of the Zone family said with a smile. Your Excellency has gone out to inspect the progress of disaster relief these 2 days. Yachain is a little worried at home alone, afraid that your Excellency will leave and ignore him. How could that be? Siejin rubbed Zone Yachain's head soothingly. If I leave, I will definitely take you with me. Your Excellency may have forgotten that you have a husband, Xian Yuanchen said in a cold tone. Don't forget that your marriage was granted by Her Majesty the Queen. You really dare to bring some messy people back. I want to see how your Excellency will explain to Her Majesty. The next chapter you are eagerly looking forward to is coming. Yao Yao. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 744. This young man is very good at pouring cold water on critical moments. The air was slightly condensed, everyone in the Zone family and all the officials present turned their attention, and the atmosphere was subtle for a moment. Being choked in public, Siejin's face was obviously a little uneasy, and his expression suddenly turned cold. He slowly turned to look at him. You have been in need of ejaculation recently, right? Although Xian Yuanchen knew that Siejin was acting at this time, in the past, the 9th master of the Xie family was very prestigious, and now when his expression became colder, his aura was scary enough. Xian Yuanchen lowered his head in silence and stopped talking, as if he didn't dare to speak to him again. Why are you so fierce, sir? Zone Yashang, who was nestling in his arms, seemed to be scared and whispered, Don't scare Mr. Chen. Yes, sir, don't make trouble. You should be happy with such a good atmosphere now. Don't be angry. Young Master Chen is also talking without meaning, sir. Don't be as knowledgeable as him. Others opened their mouths to smooth things over, gradually relaxing the atmosphere. Mo Ling'an and Chu Nanyi, who were sitting on the corridor, watched their performance quietly, with the corners of their lips slightly raised, looking interested. Not to mention, although Siejin seems to be carefree, he is not ambiguous at all when he is really doing big things. No wonder the Lord is so confident in entrusting him with one big thing after another. Speaking of leaving, when do you plan to return to Beijing? Lords His who said at the right time, on the day of your return to Beijing, I will host a farewell banquet. On behalf of all the people of Mianzhou, I would like to thank you for caring about the people. Disaster relief is a success. Yes, we should all be grateful, sir. If it weren't for Mr. Xie, the Chen family's granary wouldn't be able to store so much rice right now. Your Excellency is really a good parent guardian for us. Everyone held it insincerely, with false smiles on their faces, staring at Siejin with eyes, wishing to send him away immediately. If the imperial envoy knew better, he planned to leave Lianzhou in the next 3 or 2 days. They will consider keeping him alive. This evening is a pure farewell banquet. If he plans to continue to stay in Mianzhou, or even decides to intervene in the grain hoarding issues of major grain merchants, then don't blame them for being ruthless and having to take action against him for the sake of profit. It's easy to talk, you don't need to be overly polite. Siejin smiled. I finally came to Mianzhou, don't you want me to stay here for a while? Besides, Mianzhou has many beauties. If I really come tomorrow, let's go. What should we do with the little beauty Yashang? Thank you, sir. The head of the Zone family smiled lightly. There is something we have been confused about tonight, and we hope that Sir Xie can answer it for us. Siejin was puzzled. What can't you figure out? The rice in the Chen family's rice warehouse is what adults want to fill. Siejin nodded slowly. Yes, for disaster relief. The Chen family took the initiative to give rice and noodles to the people. Was it your idea? Yes, I came to Mianzhou to provide disaster relief. Siejin continued to nod. I borrowed rice from the Chen family, so naturally I have to return it to others. The head of the clan smiled lightly. My lord, you must have paid a little too much. Xiejin said, it is appropriate to borrow and repay the principal. As for whether it is more or not, that is also my business. The money for purchasing rice from other places comes from the imperial court. Does the head of the clan think it is inappropriate? The head of the Zone family said, Your Excellency, you should know that the hundreds of thousands of people in Mianzhou need a huge amount of food. All major grain merchants have always competed fairly. If all rice is monopolized by the Chen family, what will other grain merchants do? Will they? Are you going to be suppressed because of this? If the Chen family becomes the dominant family in the future, how will our family gain a foothold in Mianzhou? Xiejin raised his eyebrows. A single family? Why would the head of the clan think so? Your Excellency, you put all the rice into the Chen family's rice warehouse, isn't it just to make the Chen family dominate? The rice in the Chen family's rice warehouse was purchased from Boss Chu with money from the Chen family. Xiejin raised his finger and pointed to the corridor. In addition to the double return of the amount borrowed for disaster relief, other Chen family also made contributions purchased with money. Do you think I really have that much power to buy all the court's disaster relief money and stuff it into the Chen family's rice warehouse? Why double the return? On the day I arrived in Linwu, the people were hungry, and the children on the street were so hungry that their faces were pale and listless. Did Lords His Hu and his officials make a pot of porridge and give out a steamed bun to the people? Xiejin smiled and said, When I came to Linwu, I took the lead in staying at the Chen family's house. I steamed the steamed buns overnight and used the Chen family's rice. I used the Chen family's rice to cook the porridge. The cooks were all hired by the Chen family from the town. Young and middle-aged people, the wages they need to work are paid by the Chen family, so why not give them twice as much rice? Your Majesty, the imperial envoy, is wrong. Use His Who argued unconvincedly. The flood in Mianzhou flooded the rice fields and houses. I led all the adults to actively raise food, went to neighboring cities and even other provinces to buy tents, and checked on the affected people. I was busy non-stop. Your Excellency only sees that the people are hungry, but you don't know that the government cannot raise enough food for a while. Even if the official is determined to solve the problem of food for the people, there is not enough rice for a while. If it is distributed to Linwu town, and He town there will be a shortage, and in short, we cannot treat everyone equally. As a result, if the people who cannot receive food become dissatisfied and cause riots. Master Yu, are you making excuses for your dereliction of duty? Xiejin sat calmly in the chair, one hand still hanging in Zone Yushang's hair, and there was a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. If I now go and check, the granaries of the Zone family, Boss Yu, Boss Wang, and other adults should have been filled with rice, right? Everyone's expressions changed. What? Xiejin smiled casually. Are you going to raise the price of food immediately after I leave Mianzhou and make a fortune from the disaster in Mianzhou? After the words fell, the expressions of everyone present changed. The adults and grain merchant bosses who had been smiling with hypocritical flattery just now looked at Xiejin with a sinister coldness in their eyes. It seems that I miscalculated. The head of the Zone family smiled coldly. I thought Mr. Xie was uniting with the Chen family to take advantage of it all, but I didn't expect it was to deal with us. Mr. Xie is so good at acting that even I was deceived. Xiejin heard this and said seriously, Actually, it's not that my acting skills are good. Since I came to Mianzhou, many flaws have been exposed in front of you. However, although you seem to be scheming, you are actually much simpler than I imagined. I have no choice but to continue acting with you. The author has something to say. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 745. What Your Excellency said makes us a little panicked. Use His Who smiled but secretly made a gesture to the officers and soldiers who had been deployed here in advance to get ready. I think there is still room for discussion on this matter. What do you think, Mr. Xie? Zone Yushang said in a low voice, Sir, I think Lord's his who is right. Doing business with anger will make you rich, and the same goes for being an official. Your Excellency has made great contributions to disaster relief in Mianzhou. When you return to the imperial capital, Her Majesty the Queen will definitely give you a promotion, and you will be rewarded. I will write a note to praise your virtues. If you are willing, we can also ask the people of Mianzhou to write tens of thousands of people. Baby Yishang, what do you mean? Is that Mister you can already cover the sky in Mianzhou with one hand, bully the superiors and deceive the inferiors, and sing praises to whomever he wants? Is it time for Sir you to be promoted to 3 levels if he praises his virtues? Or if he sings his praises to the head of the clan, can he make the clan prosperous and rise to the sky? Zhou Yishang pursed her lips lightly, like a child who didn't understand the world, and looked at him at a loss. Do you think this is inappropriate, sir? Xiejin shook his finger. It's very inappropriate. The head of the Zone family had a gloomy expression, so Mr. Xie is determined to let the Chen family dominate. The Chen family is not the only one responsible for the food supply in Mianzhou. Boss Yu stood up with a somewhat unsightly expression on his face. Isn't it fair that your Excellency gives all the business to the Chen family? Xiejin was silent for a moment, then smiled with interest. When did I order other grain merchants not to sell rice? He did not give the order. However, the fact is that the Zone family, the Yu family, the Wang family and other families purchased rice from Lingxian County at a price that was 20% higher than the cost price in order to seize the opportunity to make a lot of money after the disaster. If the Chen family lowers the price this time, or just maintains the original price, then the Zone family, the Yu family, and the Wang family will not only work in vain, but also lose some money, and watch helplessly as they should have pocketed money. Who would be happy if the money is gone? The more they sell at the original price, the more they lose. If they don't sell it, the Chen family's rice will continue to arrive in waves, which will directly monopolize the rice business. It will be more difficult for them to snatch it back in the future. Sky. It's just that although these words are understood by each other, they can never be said directly on the face. My lord, please think twice, the head of the clan said solemnly. No one is happy to let other families suffer losses for the sake of the Chen family. Boss Yu said, my lord, please think again. Please consider it carefully, Your Majesty. The imperial envoy Boss Wang also stood up and slightly bowed his hands towards Xiejin. His attitude seemed to be humble, but his attitude was tough. So many grain merchants in Mianzhou rely on the granary to make a living. Xiejin looked around casually, with a smile on his lips. The battle is going to be quite big tonight. Are you adults and family heads going to be tough? Man perishes for wealth, and birds perish for food. The head of the clan looked at him expressionlessly. Thanks to sir, we can't continue the discussion. Xiejin held the wine cup and gave Zone Yishang a sip of wine as if flirting. What are the plans of the Zone family? Zone Wei didn't say anything, he just raised his hand and waved. The officers and soldiers lurking in the dark all came forward with swords in hand. There were dozens of people in the southeast and northwest directions. Their swords were cold and fierce. At the same time, a row of archers appeared on the roof, and their cold arrows were pointed in Xiejin's direction. In an instant, the momentum was intense and on the verge of breaking out. Chu Nanyi, who was sitting on the corridor, slowly put down the teacup and said in a leisurely tone, Prince Yao should have arrived. That's for sure, Mo Lingan said. If he misses the real thing, let alone the life of his sweetheart, he won't be able to pass even the master's test. Chu Nanyi nodded slowly. That's good. I have worked hard for so many days and even sent food to Xiejin all the way. If you lose your life just after arriving here, there is really no point in being wronged. We both know when Prince Yao will arrive, but Xiejin probably doesn't know. Mo Lingan turned to look at Chu Nanyi, his eyebrows slightly twisted. Why do I feel that he seems to be very relaxed and content, and he doesn't seem nervous or worried at all? What does it look like? Chu Nanyi looked around, maybe he has figured out the way to escape from the Zone family's house. Even if there is a fight, he will not die so easily. It seems that this has been prepared for a long time. The sky is high and the emperor is far away, but a mere magistrate of Mianzhou and a few families should not be able to compete with the imperial army, right? I really can't understand what you have in your mind. Even if you are really tired of life, you have never seen anything like this. I'm looking for death. Your Majesty Xie dared to utter such arrogant words while in an urn, and I really admire him. Use his who smiled lightly. Even if the imperial envoy died here today, who can prove that we killed you? Xie Jin raised his eyebrows. No one can prove it. Of course no one can prove it. Use his who sneered. The official said that the imperial envoy was assassinated in Mianzhou, or was washed away by floods during disaster relief. He sacrificed his life for the sake of justice for the people. In fact, this is the East. The hero of the mausoleum is a great hero in the hearts of hundreds of thousands of people in Mianzhou City. Mr. Xie died without any evidence. Shouldn't the cause of death be allowed to be fabricated by me, the governor? I will grant you the title of Marquis of Loyalty and Righteousness, honor your ancestors, and protect future generations. How many glasses of wine did this lord drink tonight? He is talking nonsense in his sleep. Did he eat too few peanuts? Suddenly, a young man's voice sounded, clean and clear, with a slight chill and murderous aura, like a ray of morning sun that suddenly shone in the gloomy night, making everyone present turn their heads. For Xie Jin, it was the morning sun, and for Xianyuan Chen, it was the bright sun. But for the officials and family heads present, it was the god of death who sent them to the abyss of hell tonight. The young man who walked slowly had elegant and noble eyebrows and eyes, and a tall and slender figure. His silver-white military uniform reflected the elegant and cold color under the lights at night. His demeanor was extraordinary and outstanding, and the cold and hard momentum trained in the military camp was daunting. Dozens of soldiers in silver white and black cloaks behind him were like ghosts in the dark night. They rushed through the house like ghosts, and in a flash, they dealt with all the officers and soldiers with swords. The sound of weapons falling to the ground was frightening. The archers on the roof had not yet noticed the danger, and were silently restrained in the vitals, unable to move at all. The whole garden was silent, and the face of the head of the clan went from shock to stiffness, and then from stiffness to pale and grey. Obviously, he had expected his ending tonight. Author has something to say. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 746. Everyone at the table stood up in shock, their faces pale. What's going on? Who are you? How dare you break into a private house? Master Yu, they are not breaking into a private house. Chu Nanyi kindly reminded, this is the famous Prince of Huainan, Xianyuan Yao. He is the commander of the Black Obsidian Army. He is here to do his job and has the right to break into any house under your jurisdiction. After the words fell, Yu's his who fell down on the chair, his face as pale as paper as the head of the clan. It's over, it's all over. Death is approaching. The words he just said, even if he died 100 times, it would not be enough. Xianyuan Yao's eyes were like swords, coldly sweeping over the people present in front of him. His eyes swept over the beautiful young man beside Xie Jin, without any reaction, and quickly looked at Yu's his who, his voice as cold as frost. Plotting to murder an official appointed by the court is an unforgivable crime. Lord Yu and the heads of the families present do not need to defend themselves or beg for mercy. From now on, keep quiet. This general does not want to hear any voices that should not be heard. The young general, who had been immersed in the military camp for many years, had an awe-inspiring aura. His tone was cold and majestic, with unquestionable toughness, and it was obviously a voice without ups and downs, but it sounded like thunder in everyone's ears. making people feel scared. It seems that we don't need to do it. Chu Nanyi smiled lightly, stood up, and brushed his sleeves. Prince Yao used to hang out with Xiejin, and he only acted like a prince of the royal family. Tonight we are fortunate to truly see the aura of the military officer cultivated by the master. Lingen did not speak, and looked around in silence. The Obsidian army entered the house without making any sound. They were so agile and nimble that people didn't even have time to react. Although the officers and soldiers holding swords were only three-legged cats, they could catch the archers on the roof before they could react, which was still something that only masters could do. From this, it can be seen that the training standard of the Obsidian army really achieved 1 against 10. Not to mention the overall combat capability, it was strong enough for individual combat. There is no need to elaborate on what happened next. The heads of various families wanted to defend themselves and beg for mercy. The officials under His who also wanted to find reasons for their pardon, but Xiejin said in one sentence that all the officials and grain merchants who entered the house tonight were unforgivable. So without suspense, everyone was arrested, except Chu Nanyi and Lingen, and Zhong Yushang. Sir. Zhong Yushang gently pulled Xiejin's robe sleeve. I'm afraid. Xiejin glanced at him. What are you afraid of? Afraid that I will eat you. Are you addicted to acting? Zhong Yushang bit her lip lightly. I'm afraid of that general. Xiejin turned to look at Xian Yuanyao, ruthlessly stretched out his hand to push away Zhong Yushang's restless claws, and walked over. Yao Yao. Xian Yuanyao looked at him coldly. Xian Yuanxie, do you know your crime? Xiejin was stunned. Young Master Zhong Yushang came forward again, tugging Xiejin's arm pitifully. My lord clearly said that he liked Yushang very much. Why did you change your mind so quickly? Xiejin frowned slightly and tilted his head to look at him. Are you done? My lord. Zhong Yushang was startled, then his eyes turned red, and he let go of him anxiously. What did I do wrong? Xiejin said calmly, if you want me to arrest you and have the Zone family be taken to the imperial capital to be beheaded for public display, you can continue to be presumptuous. Zhong Yushang paused, then pouted, and stopped talking immediately. Chu Nanyi Xiejin ordered as a matter of course, you go with him to his grandfather's room, lift the bedboard and take out all the evidence, be careful of the traps and hidden weapons. Chu Nanyi raised his eyebrows. I'm not an imperial envoy on duty, nor am I a soldier who arrests people. Why let me go? Because you stay here and get in the way. Xiejin sneered. Do you want to be responsible for patrolling this house? Chu Nanyi sighed lightly and left with Zhong Yushang. Sir Zhong Yushang did not forget to express his affection before leaving. I really like you, sir. Can you take me with you when you return to Beijing? I want to follow. The boy's voice became lower and lower, and finally silenced under Xiejin's calm but threatening gaze. Zhong Yushang turned around and left with Chu Nanyi to deal with the last things tonight. Ling and Xiejin's eyes fell on Xian Yuanyao's face. You go with Xian Yuanchen and take a few obsidian soldiers to interrogate. I want to know how much ill-gotten gains these family heads have made over the years in the shortest possible time. Bring me the relevant account books and the relevant files in the government office. Lingen did not protest, but said to Xian Yuanyao, Prince Yao, can you give me a few obsidian soldiers? Xian Yuanyao pointed a few people to him and said, and ye will be responsible for cleaning up the mess. I obey your orders. Everything that should be arranged was arranged, and only Xiejin and Xian Yuanyao were left here. Yao Yao is angry. Xiejin stepped forward, restrained himself in front of the obsidian soldiers, and just smiled at Xian Yuanyao. I am doing this for the needs of the case. Xian Yuanyao said calmly, did I say anything to you? Xiejin choked, I'm afraid you misunderstood. He didn't say anything and asked him if he knew his guilt. I think you're enjoying it. Xian Yuanyao said calmly, the young man from the Zone family is as beautiful as a flower, it's normal for you to like him. I don't like him. Are you talking back to me? Xian Yuanyao frowned and looked at him expressionlessly. have you forgotten the fifth house rule? Xiejin frowned and thought for a while. Yao Yao, there is no rule in the house rule that you cannot talk back. Xian Yuan Yao's expression turned cold. Go back and add this one. Xiejin. Is this shooting yourself in the foot? Yao Yao Xiejin smiled very sincerely. I promise that I have not done anything inappropriate to Zonya Chang. Xian Yuan Yao looked at him steadily. Do you think I am blind? Xiejin. When this general came in just now, he saw the two of you leaning against each other, your bodies intimately hugging each other. Xian Yuan Yao said calmly, don't quibble anymore, otherwise you will be guilty of a greater crime. Xiejin finally shut up completely. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 747. There is strength in numbers, and the Black Obsidian Army is really efficient. It took less than 2 hours for Mo Lingan and An Yi, who acted separately, to bring all the things that needed to be taken with the Black Obsidian Army. Xian Yuan Yao personally checked the Zone family house, took away all the things that could be taken away, and sealed all the things that needed to be sealed. After a busy period, it was late at night when several people arrived at the Zone family garden to meet up. Chu Nanyi led Zone Yishang late. All the account books and evidence of the Zone family are here. Chu Nanyi handed a pile of things to the Black Obsidian Army. Just now, Master Zone and I went to the Zone family master's study and secret room again. It took us a long time to find the key to the Zone family rice warehouse, so we came a little late. Hearing this, Xian Yuan Yao only glanced at Zone Yishang lightly, but didn't say anything. Chu Nanyi was keenly aware that Xiejin did not perform well tonight. It took more than 2 hours to appease his sweetheart. However, this was not the point at the moment. The point was that the Obsidian Army took out several large boxes of silver, many valuable calligraphy and painting vases, and countless treasures and jades from the Zone family's warehouse, and then several people took the key to the Zone family's granary. As expected, the rice warehouse was already full of rice, and it seemed that there was more rice than the rice warehouse of the Chen family. All this rice is used for disaster relief and distributed to the disaster-stricken people for free. Xian Yuan Yao turned his head and looked at Chu Nanyi. You know a lot of people, you can arrange some reliable people to arrange the follow-up work of the disaster. Chu Nanyi nodded subconsciously. At this time, Xian Yuan Yao's expression was serious and solemn, and he looked more cold and majestic than usual. It was obvious that business was more important than anything else, and there was no room for jokes. In addition, the generals in the army gave orders with a kind of demeanor that people dared not disobey. Chu Nanyi knew the situation and naturally would not tease him at this time. Instead, Zonya Chain frequently looked at Xian Yuan Yao, and that look seemed to be examining how difficult his love rival was to deal with, but it was a pity that Xian Yuan Yao was too lazy to even give him a look. Chu Nanyi and Mo Lingan looked at each other, and they kept silent tacitly. Well, it was important to do business now, and the good show would be left for later. When the aftermath work was almost completed and several people walked out of the Zone family house and prepared to leave, Xian Yuan Yao ordered the Zone house to be sealed, not only the Zone family house, but all the grain merchants and government officials who are in the Zone family group tonight will be sealed. When the matter here is over, everyone will be taken back for trial. Zone Yuchang spoke at this time. Master Xie has agreed to hand over the Zone family to me for disposal. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere suddenly became subtle. Everyone's expression became weird, and the look they gave Xiejin was a mixture of sympathy, pity, and surprise, as if to say, "You are so blatantly courting death? You're courting death to the point of using the law as a promise?" This is not a question of whether Xian Yuan Yao is jealous or not, but whether Xiejin will live to return to Kyoto. Even if he is lucky enough to return alive, he is likely to be divorced and removed from the Xianyuan family name, leaving only the bare Xie title. Confer it, Xianyuan Yao ordered forcefully. Yao Yao Xiejin smiled and said, as if he didn't notice any strange atmosphere, I did promise to leave the Zone family to Zone Yushang. As the voice fell, the air became quieter. Chu Nanyi turned his head to look at the sky. The sky was gray after a busy night. They are all tired, okay. Can they go back to rest earlier? Although it is also important to watch the show well, wouldn't it be better to go back and take a good bath, have a comfortable sleep, make a cup of tea after waking up, and sit and watch the show leisurely? Mo Lingan looked at Zone Yuchain casually, wondering what ability this young man had to persuade Xiejin to agree to such an outrageous thing. Could it be that Xiejuyi, was captured because of this pretty face? Xiejin's words sounded provocative to others, especially in front of so many people. Although he didn't mean to provoke, Xianyuan Yao was not very satisfied with him in the first place, and hearing this sentence at this time was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. Mo Lingan thought he would be angry. Zone Yuchain also thought he would show a little anger, at least even if he didn't get angry, his face would change. However, unexpectedly, Xianyuan Yao just glanced at Zone Yushang calmly, then nodded slowly and ordered his black obsidian army. The Zone family will not be sealed for the time being, but it will be heavily guarded, and no one is allowed to enter or leave at will. When this was said, not only Zone Yushang was surprised, but Mo Lingan and Chu Nanyi were also surprised. However, Xiejin seemed to have expected him to say this. The smile on his lips deepened, and he looked at Xianyuan Yao with tenderness. Yao Yao is the one who knows him. Even if he doesn't understand the details for the time being, he will never lose face in front of others, and will not easily question his decision. If the two positions were reversed today, Xiejin would still believe in him and would never question his decision at all. This is the tacit understanding and trust between them. Xianyuan Yao will indeed give face to Xiejin in front of outsiders and will not argue with him. After all, Xiejin is the imperial envoy who came to provide disaster relief this time. If he refutes his face in public, it is to refute the face of Her Majesty the Queen and the Regent. And even if it was just the two of them, Xianyuan Yao was never a person who would lose his temper regardless of the occasion. However, the calmer, more tolerant and patient people are, the harder it is to deal with them. Let's go and rest first, Chu Nanyi said, with a gentle and leisurely manner. There is a villa in Anhe town that can be used as a temporary place to stay. So the group went to Anhe town and rode on horseback, arriving in less than half an hour. What people didn't expect was that Zone Yuchain could actually ride a horse, and judging from her posture, her riding skills were pretty good. Chu Nanyi wanted to ask Xiejin, Zone Yuchain was also a member of the Zone family, why didn't he be detained together, but let him follow them all the way? But seeing that Xianyuan Yao didn't ask, he naturally didn't care about this sensitive issue. Anyway, Xiejin was in charge of the main affairs this time, and he just knew it in his heart. When they arrived at the villa in Anhe town, it was already completely bright. Chu Nanyi called a few maids and servants, and they went to wash and change clothes separately. Zone Yuchain was taken by two maids to wash and bathe, and Xiejin was naturally with Xianyuan Yao. The servants prepared water and clothes for them and left soon. Xianyuan Yao said nothing and took a comfortable hot bath. Xiejin served Xianyuan Yao attentively while he was bathing, as if to atone for his sins. After bathing and changing clothes, the two returned to the inner room, and Xianyuan Yao took out a few golden ingots and lined them up on the ground. Don't say I humiliate you. A man has gold under his knees. You should understand what it means. Xiejin was stunned. Is this what a man has gold under his knees? Kneel down. Xianyuan Yao sat down on the edge of the bed, his tone as calm as if a storm was coming. I have something to ask you. Xiejin looked at his handsome face quietly. Yao Yao, let me kiss you first. I missed you these 2 days. Xian Yuanyao's eyes sank. Kneel down. With a plop, Xiejin knelt down, and even reached out to put the displaced gold ingots back under his knees, behaving very well. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 748. Jin Yuanbao knocked his knee and it hurt a little. Xiejin carefully adjusted his posture before looking up at Xian Yuanyao. Yao Yao, I promise I didn't do anything. Xian Yuanyao didn't seem to hear what he said, and only said, did you sleep in the same bed at night? Xiejin's expression changed slightly and he said weakly, this is to win people's trust. I have not done anything untoward towards Zhong Yushang. Xian Yuanyao sneered, I heard that he screamed most of the night that night, and he was quite ecstatic. Xiejin pursed his lips and smiled, Yao Yao should know that the louder you scream, the more fake it is. The purpose is to make them think that their plan has succeeded. Otherwise, who else screams so loudly at night? Neither of us dash. Shut up. Xian Yuanyao looked at him coldly, I am interrogating you very seriously now. Don't give me any excuses. Don't blame me for using violence against you. Xiejin's expression became serious and he didn't even dare to say anything. Go on. Zhong Yushang hated everyone in the Zhong family, so he proposed to cooperate with me. He helped me get all the evidence of the Zhong family, and I promised to hand over the Zhong family to him. Dare to miss it, he also has an expert in water control. When the time comes, the Burmese river embankment will still need this person's help, and Zhong Yushang promised that from now on, 70% of all business income of the Zhong family will be transferred to the court or it was used to control floods, and he only kept 30% to pay workers' salaries. Xian Yuanyao frowned, can you take charge of this matter? No, so I still need to ask the Lord for instructions. Only after the Lord agrees can I make the decision. Xian Yuanyao said in a calm tone, I think the young master of the Zhong family is very affectionate towards you. He has become addicted to acting in the past 2 days, and he deliberately wants to provoke us. Xiejin reached out to touch Xian Yuanyao's hand, Yao Yao should believe that I am dash. Snap. Xian Yuanyao slapped away his restless paws, I haven't finished asking my questions yet, please be more honest with me. Xiejin retracted his hand and looked at him aggrievedly, although we shared the bed that night, we didn't share the pillow. But I didn't even touch his hand. Instead, I looked at the topographic map all night. Xian Yuanchen was also there. In the room. He didn't say that Xian Yuanchen was okay, but when he mentioned Xian Yuanchen, Xian Yuanyao couldn't help but frown, young Master Chen is already married, and you can actually involve him in it when you are acting? Do you think he is like you? Are you so shameless and open-minded? For the sake of running errands, it's okay to wrong him occasionally, Xiejin defended, isn't it because I want to solve the problem quickly so that I can go back to see you as soon as possible? Quick victory, Xian Yuanyao sneered, do you think I'm blind or deaf? I think you and that young master of the clan are a good match sitting together, holding hands and arms around the waist. It feels quite ecstasy, right? That young master is full of affection. Pulse, Wunong's soft words can easily make you happy and confused, so you can simply take it back and keep it by your side. Yao Yao. Xiejin stretched out his hand, please give me a good beating. Xian Yuanyao paused and looked at him expressionlessly. Although I know Yao Yao is just jealous, I shouldn't make Yao Yao feel uncomfortable. Xiejin sincerely admitted his mistake, I promise not to do this again. Xian Yuanyao lowered his eyes and stared at his slender and beautiful hands, which were holding the waist of the boy from the clan, and the two of them were leaning together so closely. A sword was handed to him, Xian Yuanyao's eyes turned slightly and fell on the sword. There are no other tools here, just use this. Xiejin put the hilt of the sword into his hand and coaxed softly, just give him a blow to calm the fire, and then don't be angry with me, eh? Xian Yuanyao frowned. Yao Yao. Xian Yuanyao put the sword aside, I'm not interested in hitting you. Xiejin reached out to hug his waist. Are Yao Yao reluctant to part with you? Xian Yuanyao didn't say anything, but he knew in his heart that he really couldn't bear it. What if such a beautiful hand is broken? Xiejin leaned in his arms, raised his eyes and asked softly, Yao Yao, is there anything else you want to ask? Xian Yuanyao thought for a while and said calmly, it's gone for the time being. Then can I get up? Xiejin rubbed his knees. Jin Yuanbao's knock is quite painful. I can endure the pain, but I'm still angry. Xian Yuanyao snorted coldly. You think you can do whatever you want after you say hello to me before going out? If I don't teach you a lesson, you will never remember it. Xiejin looked at him helplessly. I was wrong. How long have you been out and you've started to learn to talk back? Xiejin sighed, feeling that this was really unfair. I didn't mean it. Xian Yuanyao said nothing. So Xiejin admitted his mistake again. I was wrong. Go take a shower. Xiejin groaned. Didn't you wash it just now? Wash it twice more. Who told you to touch others? Xian Yuanyao looked at him coldly. Next time if you touch me randomly, I will chop off your paws. Hearing this, Xiejin couldn't help laughing anymore, and even his eyes were full of smiles. He really loved Xian Yuanyao's jealous look, and couldn't help but hold his hand. Yao Yao, I'm not born to like him, man, the one I happen to like is you. No matter how beautiful other men are, they cannot catch my eye. Xian Yuanyao snorted coldly. Although I shouldn't mention those romantic affairs in the past, I have seen the world after all. No matter whether it is a man or a woman, a beautiful face is just a skin. There are so many beautiful people in the world, but the only one who can make me fall in love is Yao. Yao Yiren. Xian Yuanyao was not angry at first, because he believed that Xiejin was not a promiscuous person. Even if there were some intimate actions, they were just for fun. He was just a little unhappy. Or to put it more bluntly, he was a little jealous when he saw others leaning on Xiejin. But he also knew that what Xiejin said was true. In his heart, he never doubted that Xiejin would do something he shouldn't do. But he still felt jealous. Especially the young master of the Zone family leaning on Xiejin with a weak and boneless look, which was annoying to look at. Go take a shower, Xian Yuanyao said, gnashing his teeth fiercely. I will take good care of my husband today. Xiejin laughed. Okay, in order to calm Yao Yao down, I will lie down today and let you deal with me. Xian Yuanyao was silent. Yao Yao, can I get up now? Xian Yuanyao snorted. Xiejin reached out and took a few gold ingots from under his knees, then stood up and rubbed his knees carefully. This thing really hurts when it hits people. Xian Yuanyao thought, it hurts a lot. Xiejin nodded. Since it hurts so much, let it be your family rule in the future. Xian Yuanyao made a decision calmly. If you dare to make me unhappy again in the future, I will let you experience the feeling of having gold under a man's knees. It will start from 1 hour, and I guarantee that you will be ecstatic and unforgettable. Xiejin shuddered, starting from 1 hour. What else? Xiejin thought about it and sighed softly. Anyway, I am Yao Yao's person in life and Yao Yao's ghost in death. I am happy to accept whatever Yao Yao does to me. One love word after another, who can resist it? Xian Yuanyao raised his foot and kicked his leg. Go take a shower, and when you come back from the shower, take off your clothes and lie down for me. Xiejin laughed softly, almost doting with pleasure. Yes, I'll go right away. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 749. Xiejin was about to get up and take another shower when there was a knock on the door. He and Xian Yuanyao looked at each other, and they both turned to look in the direction of the door. Who? Sir, it's me. Zhong Yishang's voice sounded outside, soft and weak, which made people feel a sense of pity. Can I come in? Xiejin looked at Xian Yuanyao. What is he here for? You ask me, who am I asking? Xian Yuanyao frowned. It seems like he is here to find you. Xiejin said calmly, ignore him. Sir Zhong Yushang, like an unbeatable Xiaoqiang, couldn't help but speak again, can I come in? No. Xiejin's tone was cold and hard, revealing the ruthlessness of rejecting people thousands of miles away. Get away. There was silence outside the door for a moment, and Zhong Yushang felt disappointed. Do you hate me, sir? Xian Yuanyao's expression that had just calmed down showed traces of frost again. Xiejin wanted to tear Zhong Yushang into pieces. He turned around and walked out bitterly. He opened the door and looked at Zhong Yushang. Do you want to go to the brothel, picking up guests? Zhong Yushang was stunned. Going to a brothel to pick up guests? I can help you. Xiejin's tone was calm, but full of a ruthless and chilling air. I have several beautiful young men about your age who are now working as brothels in a brothel in the imperial capital. If you are interested in this industry, if you are interested, I can make you a courtesan. Zhong Yushang was silent for a moment. I'm not interested. If you're not interested, why are you always jumping around in front of me? Xiejin looked at him coldly. You want to sow discord between me and Yao Yao? You're still a bit immature. The play is over. Why don't you get out of here? Are you seeking death? Zhong Yushang chuckled. Why did your lord become so angry so quickly? It was clearly not like this before. Could it be that Prince Yao has a good way of controlling his husband? You can get out, Xiejin said calmly. If you continue to be ignorant, I can take you to the imperial capital for questioning. It's just a matter of finding someone good at water management on the Mianjiang River embankment. The bargaining chip you hold in your hand not attractive for. Zhong Yushang felt aggrieved. Sir, are you going to cross the river and demolish the bridge, unload the mill and kill the donkey? If you are a well-behaved donkey, I don't have to kill you. Xiejin raised his eyebrows. He didn't mind being a person who broke his promise. Why keep a disobedient donkey? After saying this, he closed the door and blocked out the young man who had transformed from a beauty into a donkey in a matter of seconds. Zhong Yushang touched the nose that was almost hit, clicked her tongue, and turned around to leave. Young Master Zhong, are you being rejected? Mo Lingon came over, swinging his fan, and his eyes fell on Zhong Yushang's flower-like face. Although you have a good appearance, you don't seem to be good in front of Master Xieju. It works so well. The ninth master of the Xie family, who has never touched his body among thousands of flowers, finally met a person who made him willing to let go of his body. No matter how beautiful other people are, they will never be seen again. Zhong Yushang looked at him. Does Mr. Mo like this style of mine? No. Mo Lingon refused to become Duanjiu. I am only interested in women. Zhong Yushang sighed. Originally, I wanted to find a backer, but it seems I can't achieve my wish. Young Master Zhong still needs someone to support you. Of course. Zhong Yushang touched her face. With my rare beauty in the world, if I don't have a backer to protect me, I will have to be remembered sooner or later. Mo Lingon glanced at him silently, then sneered slightly and turned to leave. He thought it was a weak rabbit silk flower, but he didn't expect it to be a sinister little fox. As expected, the person who can cooperate with Xiejin is definitely not a good person. On the outside, he is as gentle and harmless as a little white rabbit, but on the inside, he is so dark that he cannot see the original color. Xiejin turned around and returned to the inner room, and saw Xian Yuanyao leaning on the bedside, looking at him expressionlessly, with unkind eyes. Yao Yao. Xiejin walked over and lay on top of him like a puppy. I died unjustly. Xian Yuanyao kicked him down. Xiejin took advantage of the situation and knelt on the edge of the bed, correcting his attitude of admitting his mistake. I know that I made a mistake, so I will let Yao Yao handle it today. Xian Yuanyao was silent. We haven't seen each other for such a long time. Yao Yao must have missed me too. Xiejin's lips curled up slightly, and his slanted eyes revealed infinite amorous feelings. How about I pledge my body to you, and let Yao Yao punish you severely with your own body? I. Xian Yuan Yao's heart moved. Punish you severely. The harsher the better. Xie Jin nodded. I promise I will never resist. Xian Yuan Yao jumped up like lightning, grabbed Xie Jin and threw him on the bed. His movements were as agile and flexible as a leopard's, and in an instant he was completely trapped under him. The whole movement was as smooth as flowing water, without any hesitation. Although it's inappropriate to bother you two with such good news at this time, business matters are important right now. Chu Nanyi's warm and elegant voice sounded outside, shockingly interrupting the surging undercurrent in the room. About the disaster relief, I still need some instructions from you two. Xian Yuanyao frowned, looked up in the direction of the door displeased, and then lowered his head to look into Xie Jin's smiling eyes. Chun Nanyi did it on purpose. I also think he did it on purpose, Xie Jin said softly. Yao Yao, ignore him. Xian Yuanyao ignored him and reached out to take off Xie Jin's clothes. In addition to disaster relief, there is one more thing that needs to be confirmed with Lord Xie. Chu Nanyi didn't seem to care about the anger of the two people being interrupted, and said leisurely, that young master of the clan said that he would go back to the imperial city with Lord Xie. I wonder if this is true or false. When these words came out, Xie Jin's eyebrows twitched, and he almost wanted to throw Chu Nanyi into the lake to feed the fish. Xian Yuanyao's anger, which had just subsided, rose again. He stared coldly at Xie Jin, who was pressed under him. You want to take him back to the imperial capital? Xie Jin hurriedly explained, didn't I tell you before that I can't make the decision on the cooperation conditions he discussed with me, and I need to take him back to see the emperor? Xian Yuanyao narrowed his eyes. This is a legitimate reason. We can get close to each other on the way, and we may develop feelings for each other. When we return to the imperial capital, we can take in a backyard or something, and fill in the 3,000 concubines we dismissed before. Isn't it wonderful? The regent is a yandere who needs to be pampered. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 750. Xie Jin was silent for a moment, and a sad look appeared on his handsome face. When Yao Yao says this now, does he want to put me on the fire? No matter how I explain, Yao Yao won't believe me. Xian Yuanyao's heart twisted. I will send someone to escort Zhong Yuzhang separately. I will never have a chance to get along with him for a moment. Xie Jin pursed his lips and said softly, Yao Yao, is this okay? Xian Yuanyao frowned and stared into his dull eyes. Why do you seem to have wronged you? Xie Jin pursed his lips and shook his head slowly. I'm not wronged, it's just that I didn't do a good job, and Yao Yao should be angry. I'm not angry either, Xian Yuanyao said, although Master Xie, why don't you speak? Chu Nanyi's gentle voice sounded again. Does Zhong Yuzhang want to get out? Xian Yuanyao picked up the pillow and threw it at the door. Get away. Chu Nanyi took a step back, raised her hand and touched her nose, shook her head and clicked her tongue. Is it possible that you are so angry because you are not satisfied with your desires? The weather is dry and things are dry, be careful of fire. Yao Yao, calm down. Xie Jin held Xian Yuanyao's waist with one hand and his shoulders with the other, pressing him down and raising his head to kiss him. Chu Nanyi did it on purpose, ignore him. Xian Yuanyao lowered his head and bit his neck. The sun is shining brightly in the morning, and there is a clean and cool breath in the air. Zhong Yuzhang was sitting alone in front of the stone table in the flower hall. Her extremely beautiful face became even more beautiful under the morning sun. Most of the resettlement work for the victims has been carried out, and everyone's mood has relaxed. They feel that the air after the rain is really fresh, pure, and reassuring. Chu Nanyi walked slowly up the corridor and flower hall and sat down on the stone stool. There was freshly brewed tea on the table. He raised his hand to pour himself a cup and said lightly, Young Master Zhong is not very old. The thoughtfulness is impressive. If I didn't have a little bit of scheming, how could I have survived until now in the greedy Zhong family? Zhou Yushang smiled faintly, I would have found a place with beautiful scenery and settled it long ago. Chu Nanyi looked at him with a frown, you want to go to the imperial capital with us? Zhou Yushang nodded. What are you doing in the imperial capital? Of course it's about me and Zhou and the Zone family, Zhou Yushang said, there are some things that Mr. Xie cannot decide. I need to go to the imperial capital to meet with Her Majesty the Queen. Chu Nanyi chuckled. Mr. Chu, do you think I am not qualified to meet the Holy Spirit? Zhou Yushang took a sip of tea and said in a calm voice, whether I am qualified or not is not important. What I went to the imperial capital to tell His Majesty this time is important. If Your Majesty agrees to my request, then of course everything is fine, but if I don't agree, I will be accused and beheaded along with Mr. Zhu's group of corrupt officials, and there will be no need to return to me and Zhou. Chu Nanyi raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at him with some surprise. Young Master Zhong is quite open-minded about life and death. So what if you can't look away? Zhou Yushang raised his eyes slightly. Some people are destined to live a lifetime of glory and wealth when they are born. They can get wind and rain, and some people even live with dignity is a luxury. This world is inherently unfair, and not looking away will only make you suffer more. Chu Nanyi was silent for a moment, then smiled gracefully, no wonder Xiejin is willing to cooperate with you. Hearing this, Zhou Yushang slowly revealed a teasing smile, I wonder if Mr. Xie can walk out of the room intact today. Don't worry, Crown Prince Yao can't bear to do anything to him, Chu Nanyi said calmly, he is just a hard-spoken guy with a soft heart. He was shouting fiercely, but in fact he couldn't stand Xiejin's coaxing with a few words. Moreover, Xiejin was as cunning as a fox. With a little show of obedience and a few soft words, Xianyu and Yao quickly surrendered. Zhou Yushang thought thoughtfully, so they actually really love each other. Otherwise, Chu Nanyi smiled lightly, do you think they were forced? Zhou Yushang shook his head, it's not that I thought I was being forced. I just always thought I had some hidden agenda. It doesn't seem to be the case now. Aren't you too sleepy? Mo Lingon came over waving his fan, if you don't want to sleep for a while, can we discuss disaster relief matters? Zhou Yushang and Chu Nanyi turned to look at him at the same time. What are you looking at me doing? Mo Lingon took off his clothes and sat down in front of the table. He put his fan on the table, reached for a teacup on the tea tray, and poured himself a cup of tea. Xiejin and Prince Yao are at this moment. He is busy and has no time to pay attention to us. We should discuss our own countermeasures. If we can take the opportunity to make full decisions on disaster relief matters, when we return to the imperial capital, we may be able to take all the credit and let Xiejin stay alone. Go play. This is a good idea, but the possibility of it being realized is too low, Chu Nanyi said. Prince Yao will watch you take credit for his sweetheart's achievements. Aren't you afraid that the Black Obsidian army under his command will find an uninhabited cliff, throw you down and destroy your body? As Zhou Yushang listened to them talking, she couldn't help feeling a little envious of their special friendship. Although it sounds like they are teasing each other, or even joking, what is hidden under this teasing is trust in each other without any grudges, and a completely casual and indifferent attitude toward fame, fortune, and wealth. Only someone who doesn't care about anything can talk about such a topic so calmly. People who are obsessed with money and money already have a guilty conscience, so how dare they talk about life and death and merit so casually? They have carefully thought about every word they say countless times in their hearts, fearing that they will be caught by others or reveal the secrets in their hearts that they don't want others to know. Like a stinky rat that cannot stand the light, it always lives in the dark and never sees the light.